Imagine a time in the future when you is committed to seeking enjoyment. Consider the potential for ongoing fulfillment. A never-ending supply of amusement. Distractions. Delicious treats that will fulfill all of your cravings. Now consider the cost to you of this. Could the constant search for happiness result to slavery rather than freedom? We'll examine today how the quest for pleasure, as Aldous Huxley had cautioned, could turn into a contemporary kind of slavery. We'll examine timeless knowledge and modern psychology to demonstrate our need for comfort. Comfort and satisfaction may be secretly taking away our freedom and humanity. By the video's conclusion, we will discuss the most important realization. A viewpoint. Things have the power to permanently alter your perspective on life. Now let's embark on this trip into realizing the dangers that pleasure conceals, and how we might become independent again in a world committed to securing us to transient wants. The groundbreaking novel Brave New World was written by Aldous Huxley. Brings to mind a terrifying dystopian scenario where people have given up their independence for the delusion of joy. People are at peace with soma, something that consistently brings them joy, despite the fact that they no longer have a life purpose. Prisons and chains were not the foundation of Huxley's world, but just for enjoyment. So happy that nobody dared to say no. This was his argument. Is the most damaging kind of manipulation. Now consider the society we live in today. From the alert's continuous ping to the never-ending social media browsing. Do we not? Being presented with our unique soma. Mihaly was sent by psychologists like Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, renowned for having contributed to the concept of flow. Caution us that even while interactive experiences can be produced via technology, additionally, it keeps us trapped in compulsive behavior cycles. Algorithms offer us personalized joys. Advertisements with videos supplying information that keeps us interested, but eventually give us nothing. Give it some thought. How frequently do you use your phone, looking for a brief moment of happiness only to discover hours of previous, making you feel less satisfied and more exhausted? There is a darker aspect to the pursuit of pleasure that contemporary psychology characterizes as the idea of the hedonic treadmill. Shows that no matter what level of fulfillment we attain, we quickly adjust to it, reverting to a fundamental state of satisfaction. A nice supper or a brand new car. Perhaps an exciting encounter. The want for the next fix starts as the excitement wanes. As said by Huxley, we end up being slaves to our impulses. Regularly. Seeking a sense of fulfillment that is nearly impossible to achieve. This is more than just a theoretical problem. Studies reveal a concerning association between the development of contemporary luxuries and, along with deteriorating mental health. 2020 research. The Journal of Affective Disorders published discovered that too much screen time, especially on social media sites, is associated with increased levels of anxiety and depression. What's even more concerning is how this loop is self-sustaining. Our sense of alienation and unhappiness increases as our dependence on electronics for comfort increases. That still hurt us. How much does this really cost? Never-ending quest for contentment. Franklin Frankl, a philosopher, one of the Holocaust survivors, and Man's Search for Meaning's author, asserted that true fulfillment came from not by seeking happiness, but after discovering meaning. He thought that when people's lives are meaningless, they are more inclined to look for diversions. Their existential emptiness is only made worse by it. Consider whether you have a purpose in life. Or did you accidentally permit it? Letting pleasure control your decisions. This is not a philosophical question. It's quite beneficial. We have to make decisions every day. Should the same season be viewed by everyone at once? Or spend time with those you care about? Does scrolling have to be pointless? Or make an investment in our own development? These minor, seemingly inconsequential moments accumulate during our lifetimes. As Aldous Huxley once said, most people have nearly limitless potential. For taking everything for granted. Seeking endless enjoyment. We risk undervaluing life's more profound pleasures. Connections and originality. Self-discovery. And involvement with something bigger than ourselves. This leads to a stunning realization. Joy, when pursued carelessly, does not result in freedom, rather. It produces invisible yet equally real chains. These links tie us to what we do. Hunger and distractions that deplete our energy. Time and possibilities as we proceed. We'll investigate the secret systems which profit from our addiction to pleasure, and how we might overcome them. But for today, consider this. Do you live an independent life? Or are you just a customer? In a culture that exploits your inclinations. Follow this thought. As we continue on this path of comprehension and personal freedom. In the future, your viewpoint will be tested. Oneself as well as the world. Consider a market where you focus on the money. Gold is not the most valuable commodity in the world. You can use oil or even technology. Each time you scroll, eating or clicking, you're not just interacting with things. They are buying and selling you. Greetings from the attention economy. A system that takes advantage of your addiction to pleasure and confines you to an never-ending consumption cycle. To recognize the extent to which this system manipulates us, we need to look into how it takes advantage of our biology. Professor Robert Sapolsky is a neuroscientist, an authority on dopamine and stress research, has shown how ingrained our desire for rewards is. Each time we have a positive experience, dopamine is released by our brain, a neurotransmitter that promotes particular actions. Whether it's the joy of witnessing a post receive likes, the thrill of learning something new, or the excitement of winning a match. A feedback loop is produced by this dopamine surge. It keeps us returning for more. The promise of pleasure is the catch. Frequently causes more dopamine to be released than the actual pleasure. Thus, we anticipate receiving an SMS response, or constantly update our feeds. It's not the result, but the potential advantage that makes us interested. In this manner, we become constant seekers as a result of the attention economy. Never quite satisfied but always yearning. Consider how this shows up in your day-to-day actions. Have you ever found yourself glued to your phone, without even being aware of it? Maybe seeking a snack of some kind. A moment of validation via video. But to possess it while feeling empty. These events are not coincidental. These encounters have been meticulously planned. As former Google design ethicist Tristan Harris explains, platforms are made to take advantage of our weaknesses. He refers to the incentives they produce as intermittent variable rewards. A device that resembles a slot machine. To keep up our addiction right now. Let's relate this to the vision of Aldous Huxley. The new world of bravery. It wasn't only a personal weakness to pursue pleasure. It served as a mechanism for social control. People's desires were taking over their life. Something they failed to observe. Could worry about losing their independence. We are in a similar danger today. Even while we might not use soma, we are surrounded by electronic distractions that have the same objective: to calm us and maintain our obedience. But why is this so important? Due to the fact that seeking pleasure It does more than just waste our time if it is not stopped. This results in the loss of our potential. When we put instant gratification first over worthwhile projects, we miss the chance to develop, participate and study. Cal Newport, the author of Deep Work, shows how irresponsible technology use impairs our capacity for concentration and self-control. He contends that life's greatest blessings come but from minor joys, but through perseverance and laser-like focus. Think about this. How much time do you spend on things that actually boost your standard of living? How frequently do you put instant satisfaction first for a longer period of time? The purpose of these inquiries is not to make you feel embarrassed, but to rouse. The first step is to identify our patterns in the direction of regaining our independence. However, it's not always easy to break away. The structure within which we function doesn't only promote pursuing pleasure, it gives it more ubiquity. Avoid advertisements that guarantee bliss right away. To the discussion of culture, associating material prosperity with success, we are reminded again and over again that more is better. Erich Fromm, a philosopher, wrote a book called To Have or to Be. Alerted to this threat, he contended that the preference for possession over existence in contemporary society results in a life that is shallow. Where may one find genuine happiness? Is used in place of the meaningless fulfillment of ownership. What is the other option, then? The first stage is a change of perspective. From pursuing enjoyment to pursuing meaning. This does not imply giving up pleasure or luxury, but reconsidering their significance in our lives. As Martin Seligman, a psychologist, the original creator of positive psychology, has demonstrated, the lives that are centered on significance are the most satisfying. Involvement and connections. A component of this equation is pleasure. However, it is not entirely. Spend some time reflecting on your actual sources of joy. Not the ephemeral variety that dwindles over time, but the lasting fulfillment that results from producing, building connections and making a contribution. Which aspect of your life would you like to mention? When you value immediate satisfaction, long-term expansion as we keep digging, we'll look at useful methods for escaping the grip of attention economy and find the potential of a purpose-driven life. But for the time being, cling to this truth. The unbridled pursuit of pleasure becomes an attempt to obtain slaves. To be genuinely free, we need to be able to distinguish between the things that make us happy and the solutions to these questions lie in what destroys us. Not in the next diversion, but when there's enough silence to think. Together, let's continue this trip, finding a way to regain our time, our objectives and, eventually, our lives. The following will make you reevaluate everything you believe. You are aware of what freedom and happiness are. Let's look more closely now. Consider the ramifications for psychology and philosophy of leading a life that is centered on finding pleasure. If philosophers have anything to teach us, such as contemporary psychologists and Aldous Huxley, this is it. Unchecked hedonism does more than only turn people into slaves. It changes entire societies. Think about the idea of soft tyranny, a phrase frequently used to refer to control that is not oppressive, but consoling. Tocqueville, Alexis. His evaluation on democratic systems cautioned that one day, individuals will voluntarily give up their liberties for security and comfort. This was the kind of future that Huxley had imagined. The new world of bravery. A society that was coaxed into obedience without coercion or fear, but via entertainment and diversion. Check out our world now. We are inundated with assurances of comfort every day. Intelligent gadgets that make decisions for us. Apps that provide immediate satisfaction. And a society that prioritizes convenience over all other considerations. Even while these developments make things more comfortable, they also increase our reliance on them. The less we have to work to survive, the more authority we grant them. The people in charge of these systems. However, the concealed threat has materialized. This reliance does not imply servitude. It feels fantastic and forward-thinking. And that is the reason it is so risky. Since Huxley penned a highly popular. An example of a totalitarian government might be where the executive's absolute power of powerful legislators and their horde of administrators manage a slave population who don't require coercion because they prefer being in service. Consider how this impacts your personal life. Do you frequently decide on your own? And the number of people impacted. If algorithms don't control social expectations or conventions. What made you feel uneasy recently? For the sake of advancement. Rather than choosing the simplest route. This is more than just a private matter. Repercussions of a culture fixated on pleasure. Impact external relationships. Societies and even the earth. A thinker. According to Søren Kierkegaard, this phenomenon is the absence of hope in the lovely life, where people look for happiness and beauty at the price of accountability and significance. He thought that genuine contentment, perhaps only by living a moral life, a dedicated, purposeful existence with higher objectives. Let's make excellent use of this. Consider a paved path to be one of two options. Easy to walk on and smooth. It results in an instant gratification lifestyle. The other, meanwhile, is harsh and lacking substance. Steep and difficult, requiring sacrifice and work. But provides the benefits of expansion, relationship and heritage. Which path are you on right now? Modern psychology supports the observations made by the Kierkegaards. Research indicates that those who put intrinsic goals first, such as contributions, relationships, and personal development, exhibit greater levels of contentment and contentment in life. Unlike those who seek benefits from outside sources, like riches, notoriety, or prestige. However, we continue to be pushed toward the latter by our culture. Why, given that civilization is centered on consuming? According to the level of discontent. If you were really happy, there would be no need for the newest technology, fashion or item. As a result, advertising do more than just promote goods. Their way of life is for sale. They communicate the notion that contentment is constantly only a single transaction away, but actually, no amount of pleasure from outside sources can cover a gap inside. This explains why there are so many, even though they believed they had everything they want. I'm still not content. Carl Jung, a psychologist, famously stated. No matter how ridiculous it is, people will do anything to keep from facing themselves. The unrelenting quest for enjoyment is frequently utilized to avoid the more difficult, but more fulfilling work on self-discovery. So, how do we get out of this trap? Awareness is the initial level. We need to educate ourselves on the systems and habits that maintain our servitude to pleasure. However, awareness alone is insufficient. We also need to take deliberate action. There are moments when the stairs hurt. In the process of taking back our life, switch off the alarms and start with a small. Establish limits when using technology. Select productive pursuits over pointless diversions. These acts could appear to be unimportant. However, they are inventive. In a world that is meant to divert you, think about what your life might involve. If your priorities were purpose over pleasure, which behaviors or mindsets would you need to alter? to follow the development path instead of satisfaction. As we proceed to the last leg of this adventure, we'll investigate the most deep revelation, the final key to escaping the constraints of enjoyment. This insight has the ability to change both your identity and your lifestyle. Remain with us, because the most crucial lesson has not yet been mastered. Now let's address the primary issue. How can we become independent again? In a society where our addiction to pleasure is accepted, the solution is discovered and a profound truth is acknowledged. Doing what we please does not lead to true freedom, but from exercising self-control to decide what is really important. Friedrich Nietzsche, a philosopher, once wrote, "A person can endure nearly anything if they have a purpose in life." It is essential to release this insight. When we have a strong sense of purpose in life, we are no longer captivated by the transient charm of pleasure. Making use of purpose as a guide, helping us stay away from temptations and diversions, toward leading a life with meaning. Think about the lives of individuals who have had a significant influence. Leaders such as Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr. or Mother Teresa. They were not great because they sought comfort, but by persevering through hardship, seeking a greater purpose than oneself. They serve as a reminder that the greatest form of joy is typically result from deeds of service, inventiveness and tenacity, not from transient pleasures. However, how can we determine the cause? In a world where we are pulled in many different directions, Viktor Frankl offers guidance for the future. A man at work. Discover your mission. 3 sources of meaning are described by Frankl. Producing something worthwhile, feeling connected and in love, and recognizing an increase in pain. Every one of these routes demands that we look beyond ourselves and our urgent requirements, urging us to take a hard look at life. Start by posing these queries to yourself. What kind of legacy do I want to leave? How can I help others by using my strength? When confronted with challenges, how can I take advantage of it to develop personally? These are difficult questions. They do, however, have a transformative effect. The first step is to look for answers in the direction of escaping the limitations of pleasure and beginning a purposeful life. Let's now discuss the most crucial realization. The realization that connects everything. The tempting pursuit of pleasure is finally a diversion from the more profound search for meaning. According to Aristotle, true happiness is based on eudaimonia's prosperous life. This isn't exactly an endlessly enjoyable life, but a morally upright existence, intentionality and wisdom. But if we want to live such a life, we need to learn discipline. The capacity to choose long-term benefits is discipline over instant satisfaction. It is the ability to refuse easy things. And Jocko Willing, the author, is correct in his assertions. Freedom is the same as discipline. It's through restraint that we teach ourselves to control our impulses and start living as though we are in charge of our own fate, instead of letting our emotions control us. To develop self-control, begin by creating tiny routines. Get up a little earlier to meditate or think. Make time every day to work toward a desired objective. Reduce the amount of time you spend with energy-draining diversions. Vitality and focus. It might not seem like much to engage in these minor acts of restraint. However, they have a cascade impact, transforming your life over time. This is another effective strategy. Accept discomfort. Comfort zones are rarely conducive to growth. Pushing your physical boundaries, for example. Gaining fresh knowledge or dealing with a challenging situation. The capacity to tolerate discomfort is what distinguishes exceptional people. From people who accept mediocrity. Consider this. Every time you decide to put discipline over enjoyment, you get better at living a purposeful life. Each time you fight the impulse to get distracted, a portion of your independence is restored. Important times to make judgments, those tiny, are defiant actions. Rejecting a culture that makes money off of your tardiness. Let's go over Aldous Huxley's caution as we wrap up. He caught a glimpse of a future planet, where pleasure serves as a device for control, where ease would be exchanged for independence. Considering the potential convenience of usage they provide. However, furthermore, he thought that people could be conscious. And opposition, you may overcome them by prioritizing utility over enjoyment. In the face of gluttony, self-control, and precedence over distraction, you are capable of becoming independent again. And have a life that is truly satisfying. What will you pick, then? Will you keep taking the simple route, motivated by fleeting desires? Or are you planning to fly over, accepting the difficulty of leading a meaningful life? And impartial, the decision is yours. And keep in mind, this quest is about more than just making your life better. Motivating others to follow suit is the aim. Talk about your experiences, failures, and triumphs. We can create a world if we work together, where one remembers the idea of freedom. However, the time has come to awaken to a lived reality. Despite being invisible, the shackles are breakable. Though difficult, the road to greatness is worthwhile. Make an informed decision. And bravely start living the life you were destined to lead.